Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Abigail Miller sat at her desk with her sister Janice beside her, both eagerly anticipating an evening that promised to be unforgettable. Abigail had planned such a cunning prank that she was certain people would be talking about it for years to come. Janice, who had always appreciated well-executed practical jokes, had been invited specifically to witness the event. The clock read 8:30, and they knew that the live stream from Michael and Norma Garcia's house was about to start. Earlier that morning, Michael had dropped a cryptic hint during a phone conversation, telling Abigail that something spectacular was in store, and he promised to send a link to the show later. Michael was one of Peter's best friends, and every Monday their childhood group gathered for poker night. This core group, Michael, Peter, Benny, Scarrow, and Paul, had been inseparable since kindergarten, and they had all decided to settle in the same town. Most were already married and had children. Peter and Abigail had 2 kids, Jenny and Mark. Benny and his wife Angela didn't have children yet. Paul had recently become a father. His wife Wilma had given birth to their baby just 2 months ago. Michael and Norma had 2 sons, Ben and Max, who were already asleep upstairs by the time poker started. Every week, poker nights rotated between friends' houses, with the hostess playing the role of a gracious host, while the other wives stayed home with their children. However, on Thursdays, the wives had their own gatherings. Thanks to the long-standing friendship between their husbands, the wives had also become close friends. On Thursdays, they indulged in various hobbies, ranging from crafts to book clubs. That evening, Angela Scarrow sat alone with her tablet in hand, eagerly awaiting Michael's new prank. Having grown up with 4 brothers, she had loved practical jokes since childhood and hoped that this one would be filled with good-natured fun. At exactly 8:30, the broadcast from Michael and Norma's house was set to begin. Wilma Getchell, utterly exhausted, clicked on the link Michael had sent her. She was sitting at her kitchen table, with her laptop open beside her, and on the baby monitor screen, her son, Paul Jr., slept peacefully. The last 8 weeks had been tough for her. Wilma was almost sure she had postpartum depression. She hadn't been sleeping much, and when Paul was home, his help left much to be desired, leaving Wilma to handle everything on her own. She considered closing her laptop and going to bed, but her curiosity got the better of her. As 8:30 approached, the live stream from Michael and Norma's house was about to start. Meanwhile, Norma's parents, Betty and Albert Jones, had also received an invitation to watch the show. Michael had sent them the same link, knowing how much they adored him. Betty and Albert were thrilled that Michael had entered their daughter's life and brought stability to Norma's once chaotic existence. In her younger years, Norma had been wild and restless, always at the center of parties and rebellions, and her parents feared she would never settle down. But since meeting Michael 10 years ago, everything had changed. Now, as a mother of 2 and a devoted wife, Norma had become the woman her parents had always dreamed she'd be. That evening, as they prepared for the April Fool's joke, they eagerly awaited what Michael had up his sleeve this time. With growing anticipation, Albert opened 2 bottles of beer, handing one to Betty as she made some popcorn. Their son Jerry connected the broadcast to their large TV, and the family settled in front of the screen, ready for the show. Finally, the live stream began, and the participants' recordings were turned on, as Michael had requested, to capture the moment. His specific request for recording made them think the prank would be monumental. The live feed came to life, showing the usual jokes and conversations between the 4 poker players gathered at Michael's house. The poker table was ready, drinks were flowing, and the game was in full swing. At exactly 8:30, the screens of all the viewers lit up, showing Michael's living room, where the men were playing cards and laughing. About 10 minutes into the game, a voice from the kitchen interrupted, the voice of Norma, announcing that snacks and more beer would be ready soon. For some viewers, the screen split, showing both the living room and the kitchen. For others, the broadcast focused solely on the kitchen. There, Norma calmly poured chips into a bowl and filled 4 glasses with beer. Everything seemed normal until she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small packet. With skillful precision, Norma poured the packet's contents into one of the glasses. The substance dissolved instantly, and the foam on top concealed any trace of tampering. The viewers, now fully captivated by what was happening, began speculating about what was in the packet and who would drink from that glass. Albert, grinning, bet Betty that the unlucky recipient would be Paul. Meanwhile, Janice nudged Abigail, convinced that her husband Peter would be the one to take the fateful sip. The crowd was stunned when Michael Garcia appeared with a beer in his hand. This unexpected turn of events only added to the mystery of what was happening. Why did Michael and Norma give him the contents of the mysterious package? It was clear that the two were plotting something together. The explanation had to be much more complex. Perhaps the couple had set up cameras all over the house to record a prank. Then Michael sent a link, further intensifying the strange atmosphere. Something about the situation felt off. Soon, Michael's eyes began to feel heavy, his body relaxed, and his eyelids involuntarily started to droop. The audience was utterly confused. Could it be that the other participants were preparing to prank Michael himself? Maybe they were going to shave half his hair off. But that seemed unlikely. More likely, this was a prank within a prank. Perhaps Norma had accidentally given the beer to the wrong person, and Michael wasn't the intended recipient. The viewers couldn't tear their eyes away from the screens, mesmerized by what was unfolding. As Michael's head slowly drooped onto the card table, his grip loosened, and the cards slipped from his hands, leaving the audience breathless. The cards gently floated to the floor. Then, suddenly, a loud voice boomed through the speakers in every living room. "Finally! I've been waiting for this for a whole month. All right, folks, it's time to head to the bedroom. Time is running out." Abigail Miller turned to her sister Janice, exchanging a bewildered glance. Janice mirrored her confusion. Angela Scarrow's face tensed as she grabbed her phone, while Wilma Getchell was entirely focused on the baby monitor, barely noticing as little Paul Jr. stirred in his sleep. Betty and Albert felt uncomfortable but couldn't look away from the screen. Those with split-screen functionality could see Michael unconscious at the card table, while the second screen showed the bedroom. For those without that feature, only the bedroom scene was visible, and it was quite a sight. Without hesitation, Norma, Peter, Benny, and Paul began undressing. Paul collapsed onto the bed, leaving his legs dangling off the edge. Norma quickly climbed on top of him, and what happened next left the audience completely shocked. There was no hesitation or preparation. One moment, it was an ordinary card game, and the next, Norma was intimately involved with Paul. The transition was so seamless that it was hard to believe this was their first time. Amazingly, the timing was perfect. The poker game had ended, and the lovers didn't have much time. But the suddenness of it all left everyone in shock. Janice clung to her sister Allison, who was sobbing uncontrollably. None of them could find the words to describe what they were feeling. Abigail, dazed, tried to process what she had just seen. She had always thought her marriage was perfect, and now it felt like her world was falling apart. Janice, too devastated to speak, remained silent. Meanwhile, Angela Scarrow was beside herself with rage. She pulled out her phone and quickly dialed her older brother Jeff. When he answered, she wasted no time. "That idiot, my husband, is right now in bed with that tramp," she snapped sharply. Jeff's reaction was calm. It didn't surprise him. He and his brothers had never liked Benny Scarrow. Angela, the youngest in the family, had always been their little sister. Jeff, the eldest, along with Jason, James, and Jared, had always taken special care of her. Their father had died of cancer when Angela was just 8. His last request to his sons was to always take care of their mother and sister. Jeff had immediately dropped out of school and taken a job in construction to support the family. At 18, he became a carpenter's apprentice and sent home every penny. Jason followed in his footsteps, leaving school at 17 to help on the construction site. When James turned 17, he did the same. When it was Jared's turn, his older brothers insisted that he stay in school. Jared was the smartest of them, and they wanted him to earn a degree in engineering. After his graduation, they planned to open a contracting business together. By the time Angela married Benny, the brothers' construction and design firm was thriving. Jared was still living with their mother, while the others had married and moved out. The family remained close, but Benny, though tolerated for Angela's sake, had never won the approval of her brothers. Benny had a tendency to overindulge in alcohol, and during his drunken outbursts, he often taunted Angela, saying, "I spit on your brothers." Angela loved both Benny and her brothers deeply, and despite these hurtful words, she believed their marriage was strong. Of course, there were occasional tensions, but Angela didn't think anything could destroy them. It's remarkable how quickly love can become unrecognizable. Meanwhile, Jeff was on the phone with his brothers, unaware of the storm brewing in the Garcia household. Wilma Getchell was on the verge of tears. Weeks of relentless depression, exhaustion, and sharp hormonal swings had turned her into a shadow of her former self, drained and sleepless. She slowly approached her son Paul Jr.'s room, picked him up in her arms, and silently carried him downstairs. Once they were down, she fastened him into the car seat and, without a word, headed to the car. In the living room, Betty and Albert, who had been watching TV, quietly turned it off. Their faces reflected a heavy sadness that needed no words. Albert got up from the couch, gently kissed Betty, and put on his coat before leaving the house. 20 minutes later, the chaos in the Garcia household had reached its peak. Norma had once again retreated into her usual cold and detached state, not even noticing that it was John, Michael's brother, who was standing by Benny's bedroom door, who was the first to notice. As Benny was processing what was happening, John entered the room, followed by a stern blonde woman who exuded an aura of professional authority. The noise in the room died down when she calmly said, "Could you stop?" Norma turned to her in confusion. "What's going on?" Her bewilderment was mirrored on Paul's face. "What the hell?" Paul began, but Peter, always quick to adapt, changed his reaction. "Who even is she?" The woman remained calm, taking 2 confident steps toward Norma. "Are you Norma Garcia?" she asked. Norma hesitated for a second, then nodded. The woman didn't flinch. "I'll take that as a yes. You have been officially served," she stated, quickly snapping a photo to document the moment. It was one of the strangest shots of her career. Without further explanation, the woman left the room. In the silence, John's commanding voice rang out, "I have power of attorney from my brother. Since you've stripped him of his legal rights, I'm here to act on his behalf. You need to leave his house, immediately." Norma opened her mouth to protest, but John's piercing glare silenced her. His voice was filled with contempt. "Especially you. You're just trash. My brother loved you, and this is how you repay him? Get out." At that moment, Benny realized this was his chance to escape. Frantically gathering his clothes, Benny dashed downstairs, hoping to finish dressing in the card room. But as soon as he entered, he was met by Jeff, Jason, James, and Jared. Benny froze in place. Jeff was the first to step forward, delivering a powerful punch straight to Benny's jaw. The blow instantly broke it. "That's for breaking your vows," Jeff growled. Benny collapsed to the floor in agony. Before he could react, Jason grabbed his hand and yanked off his wedding ring. Then, with a swift and precise motion, Jason broke Benny's finger. Through the haze of pain, Benny barely heard Jason's cold remark, "Maybe now you'll understand what loyalty means." Before he could process what was happening, Benny was dealt a brutal blow to the groin by James. James didn't hold back. The steel toe of his boot struck with such force that Benny immediately lost consciousness. He didn't hear James mutter, "Let this remind you to stay faithful." By the time Jared approached, Benny was already unconscious. "You always said you spit on us. Now we spit on you, Benny." Paul entered the room just as Jared was fastening his pants, trying to slip past the brothers unnoticed. He managed to sneak through, his eyes fixed on the floor, but he didn't see Wilma standing in the doorway. Fueled by adrenaline, rage, and hormones, Wilma gently set down the car seat and lunged at Paul. She became a whirlwind of fury, hitting, kicking, and yanking his hair. Her nails scratched his face with wild, desperate energy. Paul, stunned, could barely defend himself. After several minutes of Wilma's furious assault, Paul finally managed to break free and flee into the night. Moments later, Peter Miller came downstairs, completely unaware of the chaos that had just unfolded. Peter's brothers had witnessed Wilma's brutal attack on Paul and were now doing everything they could to help her calm down and pull herself together. Meanwhile, Peter, hoping to slip away unnoticed, was already at the door when his phone vibrated in his pocket. The name on the screen, Janice, his sister-in-law. Her voice sliced through the air, sharp and filled with hatred. "Don't you dare show up here tonight, you pitiful excuse for a man. You destroyed my sister. Her lawyer will be in touch with you soon, so get ready. Now disappear, and I hope you rot." Elsewhere, Norma was alone with John in a room that had become eerily quiet. To her, the brief affair with one of Michael's friends seemed like a deserved break from her role as the perfect wife. For 10 long years, she had been a loyal, devoted wife and mother. But lately, memories of her wilder days kept resurfacing, tempting and calling her back. She convinced herself that one harmless fling would help her feel like the devoted wife and mother she once was. Benny was an easy target for her plan. He had always wanted her, and she knew it well, just like she knew that almost all of Michael's friends felt the same way about her. The first time went smoothly, but instead of satisfaction, Norma felt she needed more. Her desire overpowered her reason, and before she knew it, she repeated the affair 3 more times, including today. After the last time, Michael started asking her uncomfortable and suspicious questions. That should have been her signal to stop, but the temptation was too strong. She couldn't resist the pull. Norma was jolted out of her thoughts by John's voice, breaking the silence. "Get out, you treacherous cheater. Michael's lawyer will be in touch with you." Stunned, Norma quickly dressed and threw her things into a suitcase. As she was leaving what had once been her home, she was shocked to see her father waiting for her at the door. Albert's gaze pierced her, full of contempt. "You had everything and you threw it all away for a fling. Get in the car, fool." John, on the other hand, felt only pity for his brother Michael. "What a disgrace," he muttered under his breath. He glanced at the hidden camera in the corner of the bedroom, the very one he had helped Michael install. That camera had broadcast the entire humiliating scene for everyone to see. Michael believed this would make the upcoming divorce process a bit easier for everyone. The recording was just to expose Norma for what she was. Norma never suspected that things would spiral out of control this way. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. When I drove away from the dealership, I was overcome with an incredible sense of excitement. The couple who handed me the keys to their car seemed as happy as I was, but nothing could compare to the thrill I felt sitting behind the wheel of my brand new BMW. Stopping at a red light, I couldn't help but notice the goofy smile spreading across my face. I already knew exactly what I wanted to do next. As soon as the light turned green, I pressed the gas. The deep, throaty roar of the engine echoed through the air as I pushed the BMW to its limit. Grinning from ear to ear, I slowed down to a more reasonable speed. Pulling into the driveway, I deliberately didn't park in the garage. I knew I wasn't staying home for long. I had other things to do. When I entered the house, I was immediately enveloped by the rich aroma of cooking food. The smell was unmistakable. Spaghetti. I'd never been a big fan of spaghetti, but today it didn't matter. I had other plans. Breaking from my usual habit, I didn't announce my arrival. Instead, I went straight upstairs, changed into my golf attire, grabbed my clubs from the closet, and headed back toward the door. As I reached the threshold, Mary appeared from the kitchen. "Robert, where are you going? Whose car is that outside? Dinner's almost ready. And why are you dressed like that? What's with the golf clubs?" Without missing a beat, I replied, "I'm going to play golf. That car? It's mine. And I'm dressed for golf because I'm going to play." Her face showed confusion and irritation. "You didn't say anything about golf," she protested, clearly upset. "And what about dinner?" she asked, trying to remain calm. "I'll have dinner at the club. I replied nonchalantly. Enjoy your meal. As I closed the door behind me, I heard her puzzled voice. What do you mean, your car? I didn't feel like explaining anything, so I left the question unanswered. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I muted it. When I arrived at the country club, I had a quiet dinner with Michael and Thomas, and then we went for 9 holes. It had been a long time since I last played, and my rusty swing was obvious. By the end of the game, I started feeling more confident, ready for the next round. We agreed to meet again Saturday morning for a full game, had a couple of beers, and then I headed home. I knew a storm awaited me when I returned. And sure enough, when I parked the BMW in the garage and entered the house, there sat Mary, glaring at the TV with an expression of cold fury. Her gaze could burn through steel, and her voice was filled with anger. "What's wrong with you, Robert?" she snapped, her words sharp and biting. "Nothing," I replied calmly. "What's wrong with you?" She blinked, clearly not expecting such a direct response. Usually I avoid conflict. I've always been easygoing, avoiding unnecessary arguments. Take the kitchen appliances, for example. Mary likes stainless steel, and while I don't care, I let her choose whatever she wanted. It doesn't matter much to me. I think over time she mistook my easygoing nature for a lack of character. Now I realize I contributed to that perception. But today was different. I wasn't going to just go with the flow anymore. For a moment, Mary looked at me, stunned by my sudden determination. "What's wrong with you?" she repeated angrily. "You show up in some gas-guzzling monster, say you're going to play golf, skip the dinner I made, and then have the nerve to ask what's wrong with me." I considered her words before responding calmly. "Yes." My voice was steady. "Yes." Her face twisted with disbelief. "What do you mean, yes?" she nearly screamed, her frustration boiling over. "I mean, yes, I have the nerve to ask that," I said, utterly unfazed. Her face flushed, patches of irritation showing on her skin. "Are you drunk, Robert? Or are you on something?" she shot back, in disbelief at what she was hearing. After a couple of beers at the country club, I stayed away from any drugs. "You want me to take something?" I asked. For a moment, surprise flashed across her face, but she quickly composed herself. Maybe you should think about taking antipsychotic medication." She stepped back, moving toward the kitchen door that led into the garage. Her gaze was fixed on the car parked inside. "Cool car?" she scoffed. "Is this a midlife crisis?" I hesitated for a moment, her question hanging in the air. Yeah, maybe it is." "Maybe? What kind of answer is that?" she pressed. "Okay, fine, yes," I admitted. "Something is going on, and I guess at 55 you could call it a midlife crisis." "What's bothering you?" she demanded. Her question caught me off guard. "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to understand. Clearly frustrated, she sighed. "This crisis you're going through, what's behind it?" "It's personal," I replied, hoping to end the conversation. She looked at me with disbelief. "You're having a crisis, and you're not going to tell me?" "No," I said, keeping my tone even. "Stop being an idiot," she snapped. "What do you mean, no? You're hiding something from me." Throwing her hands up in frustration, she groaned. "I'm tired of the games. What is this ridiculous car doing in our garage, and where is our old car?" "I traded it for the BMW, I explained, a little calmer than the situation warranted. "I never liked the old car." "Well, I liked our old car," she countered. "Did you think about how ridiculous you'll look driving this thing to work? All the other executives are driving hybrids." "They'll be jealous," I shrugged. She didn't buy it. We agreed on the old car. "No," I corrected her. "You agreed. I just went along with it because it made you happy." Her tone grew sharp. "So you don't care about my happiness anymore? Tomorrow you're going to return the BMW and get back our old car." "No," I said firmly. She blinked, stunned. "What do you mean, no?" "It means I'm not returning it, and I'm not getting the old car back," I calmly replied. For a moment she just stared at me, her expression shifting from shock to something more painful. "A few days ago I might have been upset," she said softly. "What happened to you, Robert?" "I go by Rob now," I informed her. "From now on, it's Rob." Her jaw dropped, and for the first time she was speechless. The silence was strangely pleasant as I headed upstairs to take a shower and get ready for bed. When I returned to the bedroom, the pillow and blanket were neatly folded at the foot of the bed. "You're sleeping in the guest room tonight," she said coldly. "You're acting like a child, and I won't share the bed with you." I paused for a moment, considering her words. Then, without saying anything, I pulled back the blanket and made myself comfortable. Her eyes widened in surprise. "What are you doing?" "Going to sleep," I replied, not bothering to elaborate. "I told you you're not sleeping here," she reminded me, her voice rising. "Yes," I said, "I heard you. But you don't get to decide where I sleep. This is my side of the bed. The bed is split evenly. I have my side and you have yours. I don't invade your space, and it would be fair if you didn't cross into mine." With a mischievous grin, she deliberately rolled over onto my side of the bed. In response, I swiftly pulled the blanket from her and, without hesitation, laid down on top of her, completely covering her. She wriggled beneath me, pushing and squirming, but it was useless. I outweighed her by nearly 100 pounds, my 200 to her 100. Her efforts were futile. "Get off me, idiot!" she spat out, her voice clearly irritated. She tried to hit me, but I caught her wrist before her hand could reach its target. "This is my side," I said calmly. "Yours is over there, and I didn't invite you to mine." I loosened my grip, allowing her to pull her hand back, and she immediately took the opportunity to return to her side of the bed. Suddenly, she began to cry. "What's wrong with you, Robert?" she sobbed, her voice trembling. "Why are you being so cruel?" "There is no Robert," I replied coldly. "There's Rob. I've already told you I prefer being called Rob." "I thought you liked being called Robert," she mumbled, clearly confused. "That's what you like to call me," I corrected her, unwavering. "I never liked it. I just put up with it for your sake. But I'm done pretending. Why should I try to make you happy when you don't even respect me?" Her tears continued to flow, quiet sobs escaping her lips. "What happened to you?" she asked in a shaky voice. "Just yesterday you were the perfect husband, and now it's like I mean nothing to you." "This didn't change overnight," I answered. "It's been 3 days, not 1. She stared at me, her eyes wide, like a baby bird waiting for its mother. "I have nothing left for you," I said in an even tone. "Worms?" she asked, her face twisted in confusion, as if I had gone mad. "What's wrong with you? Are you sick?" I paused for a moment, thinking about my answer. "The first part is complicated," I began. "But yes, I am sick." She studied my face closely. "What kind of sickness?" "I have a heart problem," I replied. Her face filled with concern. "You mean a physical heart problem? Blocked arteries? An arrhythmia? How is that connected to your behavior?" "It's not that kind of heart problem," I clarified. "It's more of a transformation, like a transplant." "Are you going to explain what that means?" she demanded, irritation creeping back into her voice. "3 days ago, I found out that you're cheating on me," I said, my tone flat and calm. "The love I had for you? It's gone. What's left is a heart as empty as yours. Now I only think about myself. I care about my happiness, not yours." Her face twisted in shock. "What did you just say?" "Maybe you should check your hearing," I replied dryly. Did I stutter? "No," she muttered, her voice trembling. "You were painfully clear." Her expression hardened. "I don't know what's come over you, but you better figure it out. You just called your wife a cheater and a whore." "I didn't accuse you of anything," I said calmly. "I simply stated the facts." She blinked, unable to believe her ears. "What are you even talking about?" She was practically yelling at me, her voice full of irritation. "There's no need to shout." "I can hear you just fine," I replied calmly. "I'm talking about your little meeting at the hotel with Oliver and Patricia Garcia," I said. Her face turned pale. "What? How? I don't even know what you're talking about. Do you even know who the president is? What day is it today?" she mumbled, grasping at any words to steer away from the topic. She fell silent, staring at me in shock. I couldn't shake the thought that she might be showing symptoms of short-term memory loss. perhaps from a stroke. I pulled out my phone and opened WhatsApp. The evidence was securely stored in our chat, and I had copies in more places than she could ever imagine. The photos were unmistakable. Mary, sandwiched between Oliver and Patricia, entering room 311 at the Patrol Hotel. She was kissing Patricia while Oliver's hand was firmly resting on her lower back. Panic crept into her voice as she asked, "Where did you get that?" "Jacob sent them to me," I said calmly. "He probably sent them to Bethany too. They're both furious. Jacob, our son, Bethany, our daughter. Remember them?" Her eyes widened as if she finally grasped the seriousness of the situation. "Jacob?" she whispered, almost talking to herself. "He saw you. These pictures aren't some random stranger's snapshots," I continued, showing her the photo Jacob had taken. "He was dropping off a client at the hotel when he spotted you. He wanted to surprise you, to visit, but instead he caught you on your little date. Fitting word, don't you think?" "It wasn't—" "Oh, God," she started, but I quickly interrupted. "It's not about excuses right now. The real question is, what are you going to do?" "Robert won't do anything," I said with cold certainty. "Rob's already on the case. He's arranged a few accidents for the three of you." She looked at me, her eyes a mix of disbelief and horror. She couldn't tell if I was joking or serious, and that uncertainty paralyzed her. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice trembling, clinging to hope. "Not much," I replied, barely hiding my indifference. "I called in a couple of old friends. Oliver and Patricia won't make it through tomorrow. And you? I'll wait a bit, until next Wednesday." I knew Oliver and Patricia were supposed to go to work tomorrow, and I suspected that their car's airbags would accidentally fail to deploy when they needed them the most. The crash would be fatal, just as Anthony had said. Everyone knows old cars don't fare well in serious collisions. That's why I sold mine. She stared at me, her jaw dropping, her face a grotesque mix of fear and disbelief. Slowly, her shock gave way to cold calculation. Strangely, her concern didn't seem to extend to Oliver or Patricia, only to herself. As usual, her thoughts were driven by self-interest. "And what about us?" she barely managed to say. "We're finished," I said in an icy tone. "I'm filing for divorce. You're going to work tomorrow, right? I wonder how your company will react when they find out that 3 of its employees were caught in a scandalous affair. I'm sure there'll be some awkward meetings at the office." I couldn't help but let out a dark chuckle. "I'm also curious how Kyle Smith, your boss, who thinks of himself as a saint, will take this news." She let out a strange, piercing sound, somewhere between a scream and a sob, like an animal cornered. I calmly turned off the bedside lamp. "Good night, Mary," I said, my voice cold and final. Part of me wondered if I would get the whole bed to myself after the divorce. She lunged at me, throwing herself onto my side of the bed, clinging to me desperately like a drowning person grasping at a straw. "I don't want a divorce, Robert," she sobbed, her tears soaking the back of my shirt. I remained silent. "Robert!" Her hand grabbed mine, pulling me closer with a sense of urgency. "Robert, I don't want us to end like this." The room echoed with her words, but I said nothing. Her eyes darted past me as if searching for something. "Robert," she repeated, now with a hint of anxiety in her voice. I met her gaze. "There is no Robert here," I replied coldly, "and you're on my side of the bed." A flicker of irritation crossed her face. "Damn it, Rob. Rob, I don't want a divorce," she insisted again. I turned to her, my voice growing even colder. "And I didn't sign up for a wife who cheats, but here we are." Funny how things turn out, I thought. It seemed she didn't appreciate the irony. "Rob, I'm sorry," she whispered. "It was just something I wanted to try. I was curious what it would be like to be with another woman." "Well, I was curious too," I responded. "Interesting." I couldn't believe the absurdity of the situation. I had always thought Oliver was a man. She shot me an annoyed look. "Don't be ridiculous. This isn't about Oliver. I didn't sleep with him. It was just me and Patricia." "Oliver just watched?" I snapped. "No," she sighed. "He was with Patricia, and I was with her too." She seemed relieved to finally admit it. I stared at her in disbelief. Do you even realize how this all sounds? After a long, awkward silence, she spoke again. I was going to suggest the same thing to you. The same thing? I asked, stunned. What does that even mean? A threesome, she explained, her voice softening. Me, you, and Patricia. You've always said you were curious about being with another woman. Yeah, I did say that, but Patricia wasn't exactly what I had in mind, I muttered. I was thinking of someone who hadn't been with half the town. Her face flushed with anger. Who are you talking about? She demanded, her patience snapping. I didn't hesitate. Mia's always been on my mind. Mia? My sister? She screamed. You're talking about my sister? You asked, I reminded her with a shrug. Mia is beautiful. She's always been that way. Mia was like Mary, but better. Her golden blonde hair framed a face with warm brown eyes, and freckles dotted a nose too cute to describe. Her figure was stunning, the kind that made men stop in their tracks. Her curves were flawless, and her body exuded a sensuality that captivated everyone. 5 years younger than us, Mia had married an NBA rising star at 30, but when his career crashed and he drowned himself in alcohol, she left him. I remember when Mary and I were dating. Mia was just a high school girl with a crush on me. I adored her back then, but I never crossed the line. Sure, there was temptation, but nothing ever happened. I wondered if Mary would even entertain the thought. Or more importantly, Mia? It was a wild idea, but given the situation, anything seemed possible. Mary was leaving me anyway. Maybe this was my way of pushing her even further away. Her mind seemed to be processing everything. I'm not going to have a threesome with my sister, she finally said, her voice trembling with disbelief. I shrugged again and rolled over, ready for sleep. The divorce moved surprisingly smoothly. Mary resisted, but divorces rarely drag on these days. Everyone knows how it goes. You can't avoid the mess. But for me, life went on. How do you let go of someone you once loved? You throw them away like garbage, even after 35 years of marriage. Sometimes they resist, but the outcome doesn't change. I never followed through with my wild idea about Mia, but I found peace. Now the touch of the woman next to me, her body curled up against mine, is enough to drown out any lingering thoughts of threesomes. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. It's hard to pinpoint exactly when everything started to change. My husband, Oliver, has always been the center of my world. From the outside, we seem like the perfect couple, and many see Oliver as an ideal partner. Handsome, successful, charming. He has a natural charisma and authority that don't require any extra effort. Approaching 57, he still has that commanding presence, while I, Margaret, sometimes feel like I'm aging a little faster. We've been married for 37 years now. Even though I often receive compliments from men, I've learned to ignore them. The most annoying ones come from overconfident types who think too highly of themselves. At 53, I've become comfortable in my own skin. My brown eyes, hair of the same shade, and a figure that still holds up have become my pride. I try to stay active, practice yoga, and maintain my shape, but I don't obsess over it. I enjoy good food and a glass of wine, which have added a few extra pounds, but I've accepted that as a natural part of life at this stage. I run a retail store and have a deep love for books, puzzles, and games of all kinds. Our children, Robert and Mary, are adults now but live nearby, so we often gather for family evenings. Our intimate life hasn't lost its spark either. The only issue, if it can be called that, is that I've never achieved complete satisfaction in bed, though it seems to bother Oliver more than it does me. He's attentive in every other way, and I genuinely enjoy being with him. One particular year, I decided to invite Oliver to my company's New Year's party. I always love dressing up for such events, and we usually have a great time. As always, Oliver fit right in, easily mingling with different people. After a while, I left him at the bar and went to dance. At first, I danced with female colleagues, but soon some young men joined us. Among them was Harry, our new supply manager. Harry and I always had a good rapport. Our interactions were easy and relaxed. He's young, athletic, and charismatic, and I couldn't help but notice that he was paying me a lot of attention. After a while, I went to check on Oliver and found him at the bar, looking rather unenthusiastic. He seemed a bit down, as if he was ready to go home. "Sorry, darling," I said. "I got caught up in conversation and lost track of time." "With everyone or just him?" Oliver replied, nodding toward Harry. "That's just Harry, a colleague," I explained. "We were just having a bit of fun, dancing." "I saw the way you looked at him," Oliver said calmly. "You like him." It didn't sound like a question, more like a statement. I was caught off guard. "What?" "No." "Well, maybe I hadn't thought about it before. But now that you mention it, I guess, yes, a little." I did enjoy the attention, and it was nice to be noticed in that way. But I didn't understand. Sure, Harry was attractive, but I wasn't interested in anything beyond a friendly, professional relationship. Even if Harry had shown interest, I wouldn't have pursued it. Surprisingly, Oliver didn't react with anger. He seemed to accept my words. We stayed at the party, and I made an effort to spend more time with him. When we got home, my attraction to Oliver was at its peak, and we had an incredible night together. Afterward, he asked, "Was it Harry who turned you on?" I thought for a moment, then decided to be honest. "Maybe a little, but mostly it was you." Seeing that Oliver wasn't upset, I felt confident enough to continue. "It's nice to get attention from a young man, but nothing compares to what we have. All that energy, it's for you." That conversation opened the door to more candid discussions about our intimate life. We started sharing our fantasies, and our connection became more vibrant and frequent. I began experimenting with new lingerie, knowing how much Oliver loved stockings and heels. When we went out for dinner or drinks, I'd flirt with him, and I discovered a new side of my sexuality. Our conversations about fantasies also expanded, including hypothetical partners, usually celebrities or athletes. Throughout all of this, I constantly reassured Oliver how much I loved him and how lucky I was to have a partner who was open to exploring these things. We even started watching adult films together, some with themes of infidelity, which added a new level of excitement to our relationship. In the office, Harry often flirted with me, and I couldn't deny that I liked it. He regularly invited me out on dates, and though I always declined, a part of me secretly wanted to say yes. It became clear that I needed to talk to Oliver. One evening, I decided to discuss it with him. "I love you more than anything in the world," I began. "You're the best husband I could have ever dreamed of." Oliver smiled warmly. "I love you too," he replied. "But something's bothering you, isn't it?" "No, everything's fine," I said, though I knew it was a lie. I reminded him of our previous conversation. "Do you remember when you asked if I was interested in trying something new in our intimate life? I've been thinking about it a lot, and I feel like I want to explore this curiosity before it's too late. I wonder if it would be different with someone else." Oliver's face showed confusion, but I was sure this was something that could benefit us both. I just needed him to understand what I meant. "Harry invited me to spend the weekend with him, and I want to go," I confessed, bracing for his reaction. "I think it might help us figure out some things we've talked about. Remember how much you liked that video about the open wife we watched? I thought maybe we could bring that fantasy to life." Oliver's voice remained calm, though there was a hint of resignation in it. "That was just a fantasy, Margaret. But maybe it could be something more for us," I continued. "Harry has been interested in me for a while. He knows about you, and I don't see him as a threat to our marriage. I enjoy his attention, and I want to be completely honest with you. I'll tell you everything that happens, and I promise it won't change my love for you." "Have you already done something with Harry?" Oliver asked, and there was pain in his voice. "No, we haven't done anything," I assured him. "We're professionals at work, and I've made sure everything stays appropriate. But I want to have a little fun, and I'll always come home to you." This wasn't an easy decision. I saw the confusion and hurt in Oliver's eyes, even though he barely spoke. His silence said more than words could. I knew it was hard for him to hear. The fact that I hadn't had an orgasm didn't bother him as much as it did me. I'd read that it was quite normal for women, but I couldn't shake the thought that it might be different with someone else. Oliver seemed stunned. His legs trembled and he leaned against the wall to keep from falling. Damn, I thought. Hurting him wasn't my goal, but at least he wasn't angry. I barely slept that night and I was sure Oliver didn't either. I kept second-guessing whether I had made the right decision, and those doubts haunted me. In the morning, Oliver seemed a little calmer, which gave me hope. Maybe he saw the potential in this, even though it was difficult for him. I knew that these kinds of fantasies were far more common than people admitted, and I believed it could bring new life to our relationship. I didn't want to prolong the conversation. It was time to move forward. The thought of wearing lingerie for another man seemed surreal, but at the same time incredibly exciting. I put on a garter belt, a bra, and tiny thong panties that made me feel bold and a bit sophisticated. The fact that Harry was attractive and in good shape only increased my attraction to him. Guilt began to overwhelm me, but the anticipation quickly drowned it out. I packed my suitcase, mostly with dresses, shoes, and lingerie, and said goodbye to Oliver. "I'll be back on Sunday," I promised. "Be ready to meet me. I'll keep in touch. I want you to be part of this." Oliver didn't say anything, but I could see the anxiety and uncertainty on his face. I planned to check on him regularly to make sure he was okay. When Harry saw me in that outfit, his desire became immediately obvious. I made sure he saw my stockings, and the look in his eyes gave me a powerful rush of adrenaline. I wasn't planning on hiding anything from him. I wanted him to fully appreciate me. The tension between us was electric, and I couldn't contain my excitement for what lay ahead. "How did Oliver take the news about our trip?" Harry asked. "Not as well as I hoped," I admitted, "but not as badly as I feared. I was a bit surprised he didn't object more." "And he knows what we're going to do?" Harry asked. "Yes," I replied. I refined my approach, making it clearer but still respectful. I presented my words as if they were part of a shared journey, a common moment. Surprisingly, there was no resistance from his side. Did he really enjoy it? Maybe I should take the risk and reach out to him. Men like him sometimes enjoy a bit of light flirting and anticipation. However, I didn't want to make any assumptions. I decided to check in and dialed his number. "Hey, darling, I've arrived safely." "The hotel is amazing. How are you doing?" The silence on the other end made me frown, but soon my phone buzzed with a message. "Have a great time. I had dinner with Robert and Mary." That made me a little uneasy. What had he told the kids? I couldn't imagine him going into details. It would certainly make him uncomfortable. I hoped he was just keeping everything to himself, maybe thinking about me. But it was clear that he was distracting himself with other things. I replied, "Harry was a perfect gentleman. It feels like living in a fairy tale." His response was more cryptic than I expected. His messages were short, not as long as I would have liked, but there was no bitterness or pain in them. Harry noticed it too, and seemed to enjoy it, maybe even more than I was prepared for. I started to wonder if there was more truth behind this situation than I wanted to admit. "How about we send him a few of our photos?" Harry suggested. At first, I hesitated, but then I decided to go for it. I sent a few pictures from the restaurant, adding, "I'm grateful for everything we have, and I can imagine how much more joy we could share together." But after some thought, I changed it to, "We're having a wonderful time on our date." It seemed like the perfect subtle hint to stir something in Oliver. Memories of our anniversary here washed over me. "Looks like you're having a great time. You're all dressed up, though I noticed the ring is missing," he replied. His words took me back to that unforgettable anniversary night when everything felt magical. If tonight was even a fraction like that, it promised to be extraordinary. Maybe we should have picked a different place. I didn't want Oliver to feel replaced or forgotten. My ring still meant the world to me. "Don't worry, darling. By Sunday, it'll be back on my finger when I return. I love you truly." Guilt crept in, but I reassured myself that enjoying time with Harry didn't diminish my love for Oliver. After dinner, we had a few cocktails, and the tension between Harry and me became palpable. We declined the offer for another round and headed to the room. On the way, I quickly texted Oliver, "Heading up. Hope this excites you. I'll be the wife you love again, very soon. How are you feeling?" Before I could put my phone away, Harry pulled me close and kissed me so intensely that I trembled. "You won't regret this, Margaret," he whispered. "Maybe we could even make this a regular thing if Oliver's okay with it." His words sent a wave of excitement through me. I felt desired, and it was intoxicatingly new. Harry's touch made my body tingle with electric energy. I asked him to wait on the bed while I changed into something more fitting. In the bathroom, I unzipped my dress and glanced at myself in the mirror. The lingerie I bought for this moment looked stunning. But then I looked at my phone. Still nothing from Oliver. This was harder on him than I had expected. Although we had both agreed to this, his silence was troubling. I typed out another message. "Oliver, are you there? You've been so quiet today. I love you, darling." When I finally returned home, I hoped we could sort everything out. However, deep down, I doubted it was really possible. I stared at my phone, trying to understand what my husband was thinking. Of course, to some extent, he had to be questioning or regretting our decisions. That's just the reality of where we are now. I even sent him a few flirty selfies, posing in front of the bathroom mirror, showing off my lingerie and stockings. From the other room, Harry teased, asking if I was trying to make him wait on purpose. My phone vibrated, and I looked at the screen. "Yes," was all it said. But instead of excitement, it felt like my attempt had disappointed him. I didn't want to push further. Damn, things weren't going the way I had hoped. Those photos were supposed to bring us closer, but now everything felt wrong. I tried calling him, but he didn't pick up. Maybe he wasn't as interested tonight as I thought. Just as I was about to send another message, the phone rang. "Forget it. Do you like puzzles?" "Puzzles?" He told me to check the first words of his messages. Confused, I went back and reread them. "Have fun. Forget. Forget." Then it hit me. Actually obvious. Yes. Divorce. Divorce. My heart sank. Damn it. I tried calling again, but still no answer. Panicking, I hastily got dressed, struggling to put on my shoes while Harry looked at me in confusion. "I need to go home. Now," I said in a rush. Harry was stunned, but quickly tried to calm me, asking what was going on. I shoved the phone at him, showing him the messages. "Damn. You don't think he's going to do something crazy, do you?" "I don't want my wife finding out about this," Harry muttered nervously. "Wait, you're married?" I blurted out, rushing out of the bathroom and frantically sending more messages. "I'm coming. On my way," I wrote, praying for some kind of response. Harry grabbed his car keys and we ran out of the house. I kept trying to call, but there was still no answer. I left a voicemail, my mind racing. There was nothing more I could do. "I'm coming home," I wrote again. This time, the response came almost immediately. "Margaret had her fun. Thanks for the heads up. Gives me time to prepare." Fear gripped me. "Please don't do anything rash," I begged. Everything felt like a terrible mistake. Even loving him now felt wrong. Then another message arrived. "Legally, I have no other choice." In desperation, I tried to explain myself. "I'm not seeing him anymore. I choose you." But his reply was colder than before. "It's pointless. You wanted him, and I don't want to hold you back. Your body, your choice." "Did you at least know he's married with 3 kids?" he added. "Take your time. I'm leaving. I got fired just before retirement, and I'm going traveling." His last message was like a punch to the gut. "Oh yeah, by the way, I found another word." I scrolled through the messages again. Chance, love, law, whore. My heart clenched. When I finally pulled up to the house, everything felt wrong. A "for sale" sign was staked in the front yard. I had poured so much love into this home. It had been my sanctuary. But now it was all falling apart. Inside, on the kitchen table, lay the divorce papers, already signed by Oliver. Most of his clothes and personal belongings were gone. The realization hit me like a sudden, crushing blow. He was slipping away, the person who meant everything to me. We had shared so much. Every conversation flowed effortlessly, always filled with laughter. He was the center of my universe, and now that universe was crumbling as he drifted further away. In a desperate attempt to hold on to him, I sent one more message. "This can't be the end. I love you, and I know you love me too." For 2 agonizing weeks I waited, clinging to the hope of a response. But nothing came. His silence was like an endless abyss. No matter how many times I reached out, there was no answer. I was consumed by grief. He took half of our savings and packed up the things that mattered most to him. Then, one day, an envelope arrived in the mail, his unmistakable handwriting on the front. Inside was something that knocked the wind out of me, his wedding ring. I broke down again, unable to hold back the tears. The next day, my phone buzzed with a message from him. "Hey, just wanted to let you know I arrived safely. The resort is amazing." I stared at the screen, hoping for more, but that was all. Attached was a photo of a beach, so beautiful it looked unreal, the water a vibrant blend of turquoise and jade. The image was stunning, but my heart felt heavy. I quickly typed a response. "I'm sorry, Oliver, please, just come home." But then something strange happened. His next message sent a shock through me. He said he was now living his dream and mentioned a woman named Emily, who was kind and welcoming. He sent another picture, this time of a tanned woman lying on a lounge chair in a green and yellow bikini. It hit me like a punch. He was throwing my own words back at me, the ones I had sent in a moment of weakness that night with Harry. His message was filled with bitterness. "It's amazing here, every day. Oh, and I saw you returned the ring. Respect for that. Hope you're doing well." Then came the final, crushing blow. No chance for reconciliation. This was goodbye. My heart tightened as I read and reread those cold words. It was clear. It was over. But Oliver didn't stop there. He went further, forwarding all the messages I had sent to Harry that night by email, to Harry's wife, to my relatives, and even to our children. Harry called me, furious, raging that his wife had kicked him out and filed for divorce. He blamed me and my messages, and I blamed him for being insistent that night. My relatives were beside themselves with anger and confusion, trying to make sense of what had happened. But the most painful, the deepest blow, was from my children. Their disappointment was unbearable. Without hesitation, they told me not to expect Oliver to ever come back. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Sarah paused at the door of her husband's office, her gaze drifting across the light brown walls and the masculine decor of leather and teak wood, which she had carefully selected for him. Gently opening the door, she saw her husband look up, greeting her with a warm, familiar smile. But as she stepped into the room, softly closing the door behind her, he noticed something was wrong. After 19 years of marriage and everything they had been through together, he could read her like an open book. And now it was obvious that something was weighing heavily on her. Without taking his eyes off her, he pressed a button on the intercom. "Samantha, hold all my calls. If anyone tries to reach me, tell them I'll get back to them later. Unless it's the governor, I don't want any interruptions." "Got it, boss," his assistant replied cheerfully. After a brief pause, she added, "If I can help in any way, I noticed something too." Sarah stood silently by the door, listening to the exchange between Connor and Samantha. She struggled to keep her emotions in check. She wasn't sure she would succeed, but she knew she had to try. Slowly, she crossed the room, heading toward one of the dark red leather chairs surrounding the low table in the corner. Setting down her large bag, she tried to sit gracefully, but Connor could see her legs almost buckle beneath her. Hey, Connor said softly, getting up from his desk. He quickly moved toward her and knelt beside her. Taking her hands in his, he spoke in a quiet, reassuring voice. "I've never seen you this upset. Whatever it is, we'll get through it together. We're a team, remember? Can I get you something? Coffee? Soda? Maybe some water?" he asked, trying to calm her. "Oh, Connor," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Drinking is the last thing I want right now. It's part of the reason I'm in this situation." His brow furrowed in confusion. "Take your time, Sarah. I love you. You love me. We'll get through this no matter what. Just tell me what happened." "I don't even know where to begin," she whispered, her voice shaky. "Was it at the party on Monday? Or today when Daniel insisted on having lunch? Or did it all start months, maybe even years ago? She trailed off, searching his face for reassurance. Finding comfort in his patient expression, she summoned the courage to continue. On Monday night at the party, she began slowly. There were a lot of our friends, just as we expected. I had a couple of whiskeys. It's not an excuse, just a fact. By 10, maybe 11:30, I'd had too much to drink and needed some fresh air. I stepped outside to get away from the smoke and clear my head. She paused for a moment, gripping his hands a little tighter. It was cold. I didn't realize how cold until Daniel appeared and startled me. I hadn't noticed him at the party, but I guess he'd been there the whole time. She took a deep breath. Now I wonder if he followed me outside on purpose. Either way, he saw that I was cold and gave me his jacket. You know, we've always flirted a little. Nothing serious, or at least that's what I thought. But that night, something changed. Connor's face darkened slightly, but he remained silent, listening intently. We flirted a bit, like usual, and then he asked if I wanted to see his new office. Did you know he got promoted to senior vice president? I didn't even know. He was so excited, and I thought there was no harm in it. Just a quick look. His office wasn't bad. Not like yours, she added quickly, trying to lighten the mood for a second. I helped decorate yours after all. Connor nodded, already sensing where this conversation was headed. He'd heard rumors about Daniel's reputation with women, but had never imagined it would affect his family. Sarah exhaled deeply, leaning her head back and staring at the ceiling. I took off his jacket and hung it over a chair. I was still wearing that sleeveless black dress you like, the one with the slim skirt. The straps of my dress wrapped around my neck, leaving my back and shoulders bare. We were having a casual conversation about his work when, without any warning, Daniel's hands landed on my exposed shoulders. His touch, though unexpected, felt oddly comforting, and I didn't pull away. On the contrary, it seemed to blend with our frequent, playful exchanges. Sarah took a deep breath as if releasing the air she had been holding. She closed her eyes and continued her story. And then everything spiraled out of control. I didn't even realize how it happened, but suddenly Daniel was holding me, kissing me, and his hands were everywhere. Connor, I swear I tried to stop him, but he didn't seem to notice. And to be honest, I didn't try very hard. I didn't think it would go this far. Then something changed, and everything became different. I can't explain it. One moment I was resisting, and the next I was kissing him back, while at the same time trying to tell him to stop. But he didn't stop. He started unbuttoning my dress. I didn't stop him. I couldn't stop myself. I don't know how to explain it, Connor. Daniel was always just a friend. Your friend. And I never thought I would need to defend myself from him. When he lifted me onto his desk, it felt like a nightmare. I'm so ashamed, Connor. I let this happen. I can't even say the words. I'll understand if you can't look at me anymore. I didn't expect this, I swear. My God, Connor. Her voice trembled as she covered her face with her hands. If someone had told me this would happen, I would have laughed in their face. But it happened. And the worst part? I liked it. Not like I enjoy being with you, but it happened. I let it happen, and in some horrible way I liked it. Even when I tried to push him away, I didn't fight him with all my strength. I hate this about myself. I love you, but I couldn't stop it. I know you'll never be able to forgive me, but please, I beg you to try. The room was thick with silence, broken only by the ticking clock and Sarah's quiet sobs. Connor sat in shock, his thoughts now focused on Daniel. He remembered how Daniel would brag about his charm, his ease with women. That confidence of his had broken through Sarah's defenses. But Connor knew the story didn't end there. Sarah wasn't telling him everything. Why now? Why confess this right now? Sarah, Connor began, choosing his words carefully. Why did you decide to tell me this today? Why not earlier or later? Why didn't you wait until we were home, alone? He searched her face for answers. Why now, Sarah? You've been carrying this for a few days. From what you've told me, this isn't something you're proud of. So why not hide it? Why didn't you bury this deep? He needed to understand. Gently, he helped her up and seated her on the couch, sitting next to her, putting his arm around her shoulders. "I've seen you cry before, Sarah. I've seen you cry out of joy, out of disappointment, out of deep, all-consuming sadness. Do you remember when your sister lost her child? You cried so much that your eyes looked just like they do now, as if something inside you had broken, something that might never heal. So why today? Why did you walk into my office and tell me all of this right now?" Sarah's voice was almost a whisper as she lowered her gaze to her hands. "I was trying to figure out if I could live with this, Connor. I didn't want to hurt you. I don't want to lose you. I'm ready to give up everything if it means I still have you and the kids." Fear gripped me. The thought that you might push me away tormented my mind. I wasn't sure I could survive it if it happened. After a long silence, she softly spoke. "Daniel called me today. He insisted on meeting over lunch. So at 1 o'clock, I agreed to meet with him. I didn't want to go, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized it made sense. I needed to be honest with him, to tell him that what happened was a mistake, a one-time thing that should be forgotten. I was ready to admit my guilt and make sure he understood that there was nothing more between us. If it came to that, I would have told him that we couldn't even be friends." Her gaze met Connor's, full of determination, but she knew he wouldn't let it go that far. Despite her saying she didn't need anything, Sarah stood up and went to grab a bottle of water from Connor's hidden bar. Sitting back down, she looked straight at him and said, "His office was bugged, Connor. He has photos of us. He's threatening to show them to you and anyone else he wants if I don't do what he says." "Connor," her voice trembled, "he said he owns me." She broke down briefly but quickly regained control. "Thank God we met in a public place. He handed me an envelope with the photos. I told him I would never do what he asked, not for anything in the world. He tried to snatch the envelope back, but that's when Michael showed up. Daniel's such a coward, Connor. The moment Michael approached, Daniel turned pale. Daniel was terrified. Michael stayed with me, walked me to the car, and made sure Daniel kept his distance." Connor's face darkened, consumed by rage. "What kind of photos, Sarah? Where are they?" "They're in my bag," she confessed, her voice full of shame. "But please don't ask me to show them to you. I can't bear for you to see them. What he's doing is blackmail, Connor. I've heard rumors about other women, about ugly divorces. I'm sure he's done this before." After a long pause, she added, "The photos are there if you really want to see them, but I beg you don't look. I feel so humiliated." Connor's gaze lingered on her, full of questions, doubts, and pain. "Connor," she whispered, "there's something I need to say, though I'd rather not. Never doubt yourself. You are more than anyone could ever be. I mean that. And it's certainly not Daniel. No, Connor, not him. You're gentle, kind. What we share is not just physical. It's love. It's how we say I love you. And I only want you. Please, believe me. I don't know how I let this happen. If I had been stronger, it wouldn't have happened, but I swear to you it will never happen again. Even if you decide to leave me, I promise, it will never happen again." "What do you think we should do, Sarah?" Connor asked softly. "I want to call Samantha's brother. Do you remember him? He's a lieutenant at the sheriff's office. What Daniel did is blackmail, and I'm sure he's done it before. I want to tell Oliver everything. I know I made mistakes, but Daniel needs to be stopped, and I'm scared of what he might do if we don't take action. He's not the man we thought he was, Connor." She waited for his reluctant nod of agreement. "Can I use your phone, darling?" Sarah dialed the number and reached Samantha's brother, Oliver, just as he finished another call. She explained the situation, and half an hour later, Oliver was sitting in Connor's office, listening as Sarah gave her full statement. Oliver, borrowing Connor's phone, quickly called his office to initiate the process of obtaining a search warrant for Daniel's workplace. That same evening, sheriff's deputies conducted a thorough search of Daniel's office and uncovered hidden cameras installed in various corners. In one corner, they found a small locked safe. Upon opening it, they discovered over a dozen folders containing compromising photos, eerily similar to those Daniel had taken of Sarah. Along with the photographs were detailed records of Daniel's interactions with the women he had manipulated and blackmailed. Later that night, Connor lay in bed, staring blankly at the wall, turned away from Sarah. There was nothing unusual about this. He always slept that way. He was confident she wouldn't interpret his position as a sign of rejection. But his eyes remained open, trying to process the events of the day, still unable to believe what had happened. It felt like a lightning strike. He hadn't expected such a turn of events. Yet, deep inside, he understood. 10 years ago, he had made a mistake he swore never to repeat. The guilt from that moment had weighed heavily on his soul for many years, and he still occasionally felt its burden. Now Sarah was trapped in her own nightmare, worsened by the horror of blackmail. The constant threat of everything becoming public only heightened her anxiety. Silently, Connor thanked the heavens that his own past remained hidden from her, while she had been forced to reveal her secret to him. Sarah now lived in constant fear, worried that Connor's anger might drive him to leave her. If their affair had continued to this day, perhaps he would have considered walking away, but they had been through too much together for him to easily dismiss her pain. He understood that the torment she was enduring now was punishment enough. Breaking up their family would only add to their suffering. Connor knew he could reassure Sarah that he wouldn't leave, but that wouldn't dispel all her fears. The only real path forward was to continue living as they had for the past 19 years. He would treat her the same as always, and with time, her fears would subside. He believed that their bond could emerge from this ordeal even stronger. Time and love, these were the two forces that could heal the wounds. In the meantime, they would have to face the emotional and legal consequences of Daniel's actions. Connor foresaw that Daniel would be charged, and hoped that Sarah's involvement would remain a secret. Surely there would be other victims willing to speak out against Daniel. Perhaps some might even feel relieved to finally be able to share their stories. Despite everything that had happened, Connor couldn't help but admire Sarah's bravery, although he knew it would take some time before he could tell her that. For now, he silently acknowledged her strength, waiting for the right moment to share these thoughts. Beside him, he could still feel the tension gripping Sarah, knowing that she too was awake. Turning toward her, Connor reached out, his fingers gently gliding across her body. He felt the tension slowly melt away, replaced by a quiet tremble of pleasure. In that moment, her fear of being abandoned receded, if only temporarily. Connor knew her well enough to understand that she couldn't fully control her emotions, but her reaction was immediate, and their connection in that moment felt strong and deep. Afterward, they lay there, embracing, exchanging tender kisses and whispering words of love to each other. If it weren't for the children who might wake up, they could have spent the entire morning in bed, enjoying each other's warmth. After all, that's what Saturdays are for. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. My name is Kevin. I am 40 years old, and up until 5 weeks ago, I truly believed my marriage was unshakable. Camilla and I had been together for 9 years, married for 6. She was the vice president of marketing at a biotech startup. Smart, charismatic, ambitious. I managed strategy and infrastructure at a cybersecurity firm I helped build from the ground up. On LinkedIn, we appeared as the perfect power couple, yet success can quietly slip away without warning. It does not make a grand announcement, it simply changes form. Like Camilla's late nights, new passwords, and how she never seemed to put her phone down. I was not imagining things. My work trains me to notice patterns. That's how I approach networks, risk analysis, and even people. It started subtly. She told me she was flying to Los Angeles for a brand leadership retreat. I offered to book her flight using my miles. She declined, saying it was already arranged. Then she packed something tight and revealing, hardly appropriate for a professional conference. I asked casually who else would be attending the retreat. She mentioned some executives and a few media contacts I would not know. Her tone was light but sharp. I nodded and wished her a safe journey. That very week, I found myself under tremendous pressure. We were in the midst of assessing a crucial merger with a prominent corporation. If it succeeded, it would elevate us to an entirely new tier: larger clients, global contracts, and full-scale expansion. I was in charge of encryption protocols and ensuring compliance. My team was fully committed, working around the clock. Yet, I still made time. Each evening I sent Camilla messages. Her responses were terse: a selfie from a networking dinner that felt more like a private lounge. Something seemed off. But I kept quiet, for the time being. Because in security, you do not pursue ghosts. You wait for the breach. And deep down, I sensed mine had already happened. Camilla arrived back from Los Angeles on a Thursday. She acted as if everything was unchanged, hugged me, kissed my cheek, and mentioned the retreat was exhausting but productive. I nodded, feeling relieved she was back. The next morning, she left early, mentioning she had a budget meeting with her chief financial officer. I worked remotely that day. She left her iPad on the kitchen counter. Camilla never forgot her devices, ever. That alone made me pause. I looked at the screen, half expecting it to be locked. Surprisingly, it wasn't. A calendar invitation was open. Samuel Carter, 11:30 in the morning, Hotel Lanford, room 1508. The name Samuel Carter was familiar. He used to hold a leadership role in technology, but now drifted as a consultant for one of the companies involved in the merger we were managing. The sort of person who showed up once sensitive information began to leak. I opened her email application. No password. That was the second mistake she made. I skimmed through quickly, focusing only on the subject lines. One immediately caught my eye. Files from Kevin's laptop. See attached. The message stated, "This includes the security structure and access rights. You will need to clear metadata before the meeting. I will handle Kevin. He remains unsuspecting." The sender was Camilla. The recipient was Samuel. Attached was a simplified version of our internal infrastructure diagram. My diagram. The one I had crafted. The one secured behind biometric security, yet the file she sent did not originate from her device. It came from mine. I stood up, headed to my office, and examined the logs. Camilla had used my laptop the night before her flight, supposedly just checking her email. She had transferred files using a USB-C drive, one I had not seen in many months. And then, as if to add insult to injury, I found a message from Samuel. "That dress last night. Deadly. Can't wait to see what you wear in D.C." They had planned another meeting, and she was not even trying to cover her tracks. Weeks ago, I noticed she stopped wearing her ring at home. Her excuse was that it was too loose and she did not want to lose it. That was the story she gave. This was more than infidelity. It was theft, betrayal disguised as marriage. I did not break down walls or shout. I remained calm, opened a secure terminal, and began the investigation. Camilla would be caught off guard. The truth about revenge is that feeling it means you have already lost. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, only intense focus. I contacted Liam Talbot, former NSSA agent, a man who does not require explanations, only instructions. We had worked together years ago on a joint mission. He knew how to disappear, find those who wished to stay hidden, and maintain complete discretion. I gave him a brief with only the crucial details. Camilla managed to obtain classified files on my laptop and then sent them to Samuel, who was working with a rival company engaged in the same acquisition negotiations as we were. It was blatant espionage. I needed undeniable proof of the transfer, something solid and usable. Liam understood the gravity of the situation immediately. Without any hesitation or questions, he agreed to help. We traced the IP path of the files. Samuel had accessed them using a hotel Wi-Fi network in Los Angeles. On that very evening, Camilla claimed to be out with her co-workers. Liam retrieved the session metadata. Samuel was using a disposable laptop. Camilla had transmitted the file from a cafe near the Los Angeles airport, routing it through a public proxy server. A careless mistake. We had enough evidence to take action, but I held back. I wanted more, something that would settle this beyond any doubt. The next move was mine. While Camilla was taking a shower, I took the chance to look through her phone. Notifications kept popping up. One in particular grabbed my interest, a message exchange with Samuel confirming their arrangement. Room 1508 once again, same hour, precisely at 12 noon. The anticipation was clear. There was no need for me to step in personally. Their rendezvous was already set. My role was simply to make an unexpected appearance. I created a forged document embedded with tracking beacons and a hidden exploit. Should Samuel try to open it, we would gather his full device fingerprint and exact GPS location. That morning, I sent a small velvet case via the Lanford concierge to room 1508. No sender was specified, only a note to deliver it in the early afternoon. Meanwhile, Camilla was busy plotting her next trick. I had already planned out her final moments in detail. The Lanford Hotel was located on the edge of downtown, a chic place with polished marble floors and high-end espresso. They thought it was just a casual meeting. It was anything but that. Liam was stationed close by, monitoring the signals from Samuel's device. I sat inside the cafe across the road with a clear view of the lobby. At 11:44, Camilla arrived, carrying her tote bag. She ignored the reception desk and headed straight for the elevators, as if this were a normal routine for her. At 11:46, a notification appeared on my phone. It was from Camilla. "Hey babe, running late. Can we have sushi tonight?" I decided not to respond. I had a more critical plan unfolding. By 11:48, Samuel showed up, tall and poised, calm and composed. He glanced around with ease before heading toward the elevators. Liam's voice buzzed in my earpiece. "His phone has already activated our tracker. Decoy files are in motion." As Samuel stepped into the elevator, his laptop silently uploaded system specs, hardware data, and 3 years' worth of email headers directly to our secure server. At 12:10, I entered the lobby and walked up to the front desk. Earlier that day, I had arranged a delivery with the concierge. "Has room 1508 received the package I sent?" I inquired, keeping my voice steady. The concierge just smiled. "Yes, sir. It was hand-delivered about 10 minutes ago." Inside the small box lay her wedding ring, the very one she had stopped wearing weeks before. I had kept it stored in my desk drawer, waiting for this moment to come. Underneath the ring was a note. I saw everything. The exits reflected in the mirror. I stepped back outside and headed toward the cafe once again. Through the window, I spotted the elevator doors opening. Camilla appeared first, her eyes wide, clutching the velvet box tightly in one hand. Samuel followed directly behind, speaking sharply. She was still buttoning her blouse, her face pale. She turned her head and locked eyes with me across the street. I raised my coffee cup in acknowledgement. She froze immediately. For the first time, I smiled. She had no rehearsed words. Then I stood up, walked calmly to the corner, and got into Liam's car. Not a single word passed between us. He smoothly merged into traffic and began driving. Camilla arrived home that night at 10:41 p.m. She didn't say a thing as she entered, simply dropped her purse on the console table and stood in the doorway, staring at me sitting on the couch. "You hacked me," she stated coldly. "No," I replied. "I traced the trail you left behind. And it was easy." She folded her arms, but the confidence had disappeared. The usual facade she wore was completely shattered. "You don't realize what is truly going on," she tried. "I understand perfectly," I said, standing up. "You used my laptop, stole my company's encryption blueprints, sold them to Samuel Carter, who is working with a direct rival of the firm we are negotiating with. You manipulated me to get access." Her jaw clenched. "I didn't sell it. I only handed over information." "That was not yours to give," I said, moving closer. "And you did more than betray me. You committed a serious federal offense." She looked ready to argue. Then she noticed the manila folder I had taken from the coffee table. These have the timestamps, Camilla. The emails, file transfers, IP logs. I already backed up everything on 2 external drives and 1 offline secure location. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "What do you want?" I responded, placing the documents carefully in front of her, saying, "I want you to sign these divorce papers. By tomorrow morning, you will submit your resignation to the board and disappear without a trace, or I will take this directly to the Department of Justice." Her hands shook slightly as she reviewed the papers. "You can't be serious. I have never been more serious in my whole life." She blinked. "And if I agree, your name stays out of the formal complaint. Samuel takes the blame. You lose everything but avoid prison. This is the best offer you will receive." She slumped into the chair, all resistance fading away. "You were never meant to find out about this." I leaned in closer. "You were never supposed to be this careless." Then I left the room, leaving her alone with the folder, the papers, and the silence as her future slipped away. Camilla signed the papers the following morning. She did not shed a tear. She did not beg, simply wrote her name and pushed the folder across the dining table like a broken promise. By noon, her resignation was made public. Citing personal reasons, the statement declared. I saw through it. So did several board members at her firm who had already been sent the evidence package. I leaked it anonymously through a secure channel. Samuel Carter disappeared swiftly. Liam sent the beacon logs and the device's unique signature to the legal department at the firm he had been collaborating with, the very same one already facing investigation for a separate security incident. They cut all ties with him before I had the opportunity to initiate legal action. Camilla moved out within 7 days. There were no disputes or drawn-out goodbyes, only silence and a few cardboard boxes left behind. 3 days later, the company we were negotiating with reached out to us. They discovered the attempted data breach, not through me, but thanks to their own risk detection systems, which Liam subtly helped steer in the right direction. They wanted to know how I managed to stop the breach, identify the insider, and prevent the situation from escalating into a full-blown scandal. I provided them with a carefully crafted version of events, excluded Camilla's name, and explained that the leak was intercepted, neutralized, and traced back to an external source that was no longer operational. A week later, the firm I was with secured a long-term cybersecurity deal with the company we had been in talks with. Our revenue tripled overnight. Our names started appearing on shortlists we had never had access to before. Liam and I agreed it was time for a fresh start. We launched a more streamlined, sharper enterprise. Brennan and Talbot, leaders of discrete private sector operations in digital combat. People trusted us because we did not just provide security, we lived and breathed it. For my part, my nights improved. Not because Camilla had disappeared, but because I never lost my grip. I maintained control the entire time. 6 months later, Brennan and Talbot had expanded to 6 full-time analysts, a client list we once could only imagine, and an office boasting a breathtaking view of the Boston waterfront. We never advertised ourselves. We never pursued clients actively. The work came to us because in an industry driven by doubt, reputation is everything. Mine was clear-cut. I stood firm even when the knife was already embedded in my back. One Friday evening, I stayed late reviewing contracts. At exactly 7:43 p.m., my phone vibrated. A message appeared from an unknown number, but I instantly recognized who it was without saving the contact. "Camilla, I hear you have started your own company. Congratulations." I read it, paused thoughtfully, then deleted the message without responding. I left the office near 8 and went out for dinner. I was not alone. Natalie was waiting for me by the bar. We had been acquaintances for many years. She handled compliance at one of the firms we had previously worked with, sharp, clever, and direct. When she saw me, she stood up and offered a subtle smile. We shared a meal and spoke about work and what lies beyond starting anew. She never mentioned Camilla, nor was it needed. There was a certain ease to it. No expectations, just two people who had experienced enough to stop pretending. It wasn't about replacing someone or mending what was already gone. It was about creating something solid moving forward this time. The following morning, I took a run along the waterfront. The sky was spotless, my rhythm even, and nothing pulling me down. Because sometimes, the best form of revenge isn't destruction. It's having a clear perspective. And I had mine.